Hello YouTube, Honest Pizzle coming at you. Just got back from church and target practice. I will be acquiring a Winchester 1892 357 lever action this spring. A cousin of mine is going to be doing some work on it, and although I very rarely make videos or take pictures with firearms, I might make an exception for this beautiful gun. I'm going to get some engraving done on it and some gold plating. So, look forward to that. I come here today to discuss a video I saw between John Stossel and the ever-controversial Ms. Ann Coulter. And it's a video about her versus libertarians. The main two things that were discussed were the drug war and, to a lesser extent, gay marriage and, foreign policy. I'm not going to bother discussing foreign policy. The focus of my discussion will be on the drug war and gay marriage. Now, Ms. Coulter, said what she said about, well, as long as we have the welfare state, blah, 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 she's pro-drug war. And I wanted to bring up something that I was surprised Stossel nor none of the libertarians brought up, nor Ann Coulter had an answer to, is that from purely a conservative fiscal philosophy, let's not get into traditional conservatism versus libertarianism, but from a purely fiscally conservative standpoint, it makes no sense to be pro-war on drugs. Ms. Coulter has on record many times lambasting public sector employees for being lazy, inefficient, overpaid. She lambasts the welfare state. I would venture to say that the war on drugs bloats the size and scope of federal government, and the spending on it, directly and indirectly, probably dwarfs the warfare state or the welfare state. Okay, let's just think about this. How many federal employees are employed basically enforcing the war on drugs, and how much federal money is spent on it? From law enforcement officers paid and their benefits paid, also uniforms, equipment, weapons, ammunition, training, and computer and communications equipment. Not to mention buildings have to be built, utilities have to be paid. How much taxpayer dollars is spent on that? Not to mention the indirect cost of secretaries, maintenance men, landscapers, janitorial staff. A lot of these federal buildings dedicated to the war on drugs, have cafeterias in them. I mean, you're looking at dozens upon dozens of billions of dollars, spent directly and indirectly on the war on drugs. Not to mention the cost of feeding and clothing prisoners, the cost of maintaining court systems, judges, stenographers, bailiffs, and the utilities that go along with the courthouses, lawyers and their staff to try it, not to mention paying public defenders for these defendants. That alone dwarfs the welfare state. And also, Ms. Coulter, was talking about the welfare state. Well, the war on drugs in and of itself contributes to the welfare state, in that people who are convicted of drug offenses, when they get out of prison, they're convicted felons. They're less likely to be able to get a job to support themselves, more likely to have to turn to public assistance for food, housing, money, whatnot. Not to mention, dependence of these people when they're incarcerated, having to be supported by the state. You had a two-parent household, mom or dad goes away on drug charges, that reduces the family income in half, so who makes it up? Most likely the state, not the extended family. Now, Then she was talking about gay marriage. Well, true enough, the government is way too involved in marriage anyway, but that needs to be scaled back. I think a common sense solution would be to issue civil union contracts to both gay and straight couples and use those as, you know, the contract part of it for tax purposes, for divorce, alimony, child custody, and stuff like that purposes. You know, basically just change the nomenclature of it from marriage to civil unions, because at heart, marriage is a religious ceremony and not a governmental or civil ceremony. I got married in 1994 in the state of Arkansas, and I pledged my undying devotion to my then wife, not to the governor of Arkansas nor the president of the United States. Me and my then wife pledged our devotion to each other before God. That would be a common sense compromise that would make everybody somewhat happy. I mean, you know, not everybody's going to be happy all the time. But, you know, those two things, I was really disappointed that nobody brought those to Miss Coulter's attention or confronted her with that. And I was further disappointed that she didn't bring it up. Now, one thing I do think that Miss Coulter was correct about was her saying that there is a war on marriage, there is a war on the family, mostly coming from the left. I mean, it goes back to, you know, the Bolsheviks post-October Revolution in 1917 and pre-Stalin. There was a very derisive attitude among the old-line Bolsheviks, especially some of the female Bolsheviks, notably Joseph Stalin's mother-in-law, Ms. Aluyeva, and then Lenin's wife, Krupskaya. And then that extended into the new left of the United States in the 1960s with these Betty Friedan and a lot of the women's studies department, you know, basically saying that, you know, marriage was an institution oppressive to women, blah, blah, blah. And it continues today, you know, with the portrayal of married life in the mass media. So that's one thing she did get correct. I think it's somewhat 1984-ish in that the bonds of family need to be broken so children can be educated by the state, molded by the state, and not family focused or tribe focused, but rather government focused. Okay, well, that's what I have to say about that right now. I appreciate you listening, and please subscribe, and also check out my homegirl V Nasty's new video, Pour It Up, featuring Rihanna, and, you know, WGM for life.